The transformation, this butterfly wasn't born that way. Little tiny chubby caterpillar that most people are disgusted by, but then it goes through a change. And when it comes out, the beauty, like everyone is so intrigued and blown away. And you question, how is it possible that this is the same thing that went in as that little worm? That's us, wherever you stand now, it has nothing to do with where you're going to be tomorrow, next year, in a decade, as long as you keep transforming.
Let me tell you a story. And this is when, before my partner passed away, right? My partner Ken, when we used to tackle websites, it used to be like, 1-2 punch. The thing gets done like right away, right? But he passed away last year.
And condolences.
Thank you. But it's so funny because one time I got a request from a printing company that it's an artist who actually prints your picture on metal.
Okay.
And they're not cheap. Absolutely not.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one time we went to, meet with him because he wanted a specific type of website. The kind of website where not only everything has to work right there, when you're ordering, and any customization that you need to specify it before he receives the order.
Ah, okay.
And it had to work mechanically. And at that time, back then, I didn't know how to do that. So I called Ken, I'm like, Ken, we need to tackle this one. He's like, oh, don't worry, I got developers that can actually do this. I got you. Like, okay. So I'm like, okay, big company, so we need to present it, from A to Z.
Right.
Went over there, we evaluated this was going to be probably a $6,000 to $7,000 job.
Got it.
It demands a lot of work.
Right, what was involved?
Exactly. And the developers that we were going to hire were going to do most of the legwork, and we were going to work on beautifying the site, right?
Okay.
So we went over there, did our presentation, everything went well and stuff like that. This was the first time I was doing a presentation like that.
Wow.
Now, I went into myself and say, I'm not ready. I can't try someone all of that. Because sometimes we get imposter syndrome. You gotta know what we're doing, but it's like we feel so bad. It's like, sure, I should charge this person this much. Like, ooh, I don't know. But I prepared myself for all the questions and how do you say, the obstacles that he can come up with. I know I have Ken with me. I'm like, okay, we got this. Everything went well.
Amazing.
Amazing. And then I'm following up 1 week later. He's like, no, he's not ready.
Uh-oh.
Next later, no, he's not ready. I'm like, okay, that means now I have to rewrite the contract because obviously, the dates are not the same. Then eventually, when I kept asking for a follow-up, I realized that he was pulling away. Uh-oh. Okay, so what went wrong? I can't question myself. The client wasn't ready for that kind of, because he didn't realize that we would come correct like that.
There you go.
So this is how I'm like, okay, this was definitely a great experience to have, knowing that we're capable of coming up with an army of developers if we need to, right? If ever something like that comes up. Now, in my mind also, I realized, okay, I have to know what my value is.
There you go.
Understanding your value and knowing that, when someone says no or decides to walk away, it has nothing to do with you.
Bingo.
We were excited and stuff like that, but he decided he wasn't ready. Don't you think that client came back a couple of years later? So it's like timing plays a role in it. Budget plays a role in it. Your I don't know. It's like there's so many factors. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm rambling. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. You make that phenomenal point I'm going to like really hone in on it. Know your value. I think it's so important. I have to say it again. Know your value. And the thing about life is if you had to put a price tag on it, if you knew this was your last day and you could pay something to get more time, there's no limit. There is no limit. So when you live your life maximum potential, you realize really there is no limit to what you charge. What it made me think of was I was listening to Les Brown recently recount an experience where he went and attended a seminar for educational purposes with a bunch of doctors. And while he's there, they were basically advocating some fear-based campaign. So at the end, he said, do you take this hypertension medication, to one of the coordinators? And they're like, yeah, I do. And he says, why? And he goes, because I want to live. He said, then why don't you change your approach and take it away from fear to that all pressing, encompassing element of you want to live, make it positive. And when he heard that, the coordinator immediately said, do you work with doctors? Les didn't hesitate. Absolutely. And he said the next thing he knew, he received a contract to do 1 month worth of work, 16 presentations for $640,000. The whole element here is know your value.
That's it.
Because when you limit yourself, and like you said, when you go into that dark place and you think, I can't do it, somebody else will. Why not you? So I think that's great. Yeah. And wishing you many, many more opportunities that come your way. Just don't close the door. Don't close the window. Be open, be ready,
Thank you.
I do have a question as far as who you consider as your top sources of inspiration. Because we all have those days where you wonder if you can keep going. What moves you? What keeps you going? Who is the one that you hear whispering in your ear, you can do this?
I know I reference my dad a lot, though he's no longer with me since 2001, but I reference him a lot because he is the most, how do you say that, live example that I've ever. You understand? People can say, they can take Michelle Obama as their, hero, or, but I don't know what these people have done when they were kids or they come from. It's written somewhere in their biography, but I haven't lived it with it. However, I lived it with my dad. I saw the many nights that he didn't come back home because he had to do a job. Other many nights where in the middle of the night he was called because, as the brilliant mechanic he was the only person they could call to fix, those big generators. This is not like a car mechanic. You're talking about, big machines.
Yeah, next level.
Exactly. The only one they could call to do that. Or how he had to sacrifice our little Sunday, dinners or outings because he needed to put food on the table. By the time that I saw him create 3 businesses in front of me, and though two of them failed, there's one who thrived. He sent me to college and paid cash for
Look at that.
So, and not college in the country, no, college to another country, and paid cash to send me to college. So when I see this in front of me, he is my biggest inspiration. Because for me, where he came from, and he came from a very small, town, where he grew up. Not only that, but the kind of hurdles that he had to, if I tell you my dad's story, you will cry. Just one example, just for you. He had to quit school for 1 year and go take a job as a teenager.
Wow.
The job repairing little radios to send his sister to school.
Look at that.
And by the time that he came back to school, or he was so brilliant that he skipped a grade and went to the same grade as his sister so they could finish together. You see what I'm saying? When I look at this, I'm like, No, I have no greater hero, but
It's amazing.
he's my hero.
That's amazing.
You know, so you're talking about inspiration, hands down, my dad.
Fantastic. And I think it's so remarkable too that you're able to hone in on your top source of inspiration are the ones that you know the most.
Yeah.
Not the ones you read about or that you've had a casual dialogue with, but the ones who are in your heart because you've seen it, you've breathed it. And I mean, half of you is him.
Yeah.
So the very fact that he gets to live on and everything that you do must serve as a phenomenal source of inspiration to keep going because it's his legacy. He started something great. You know, I'm curious if you could turn back the hands of time and confront your younger self. What advice would you give?
What advice? Perhaps approach certain situations with caution. I have had certain situations in my life that happened that I don't know how I got myself into them. And
that's life.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with business or anything, you know. So certain situation, I was young and dumb, you know. I don't like that term, young and dumb, or perhaps naive. You know, young and naive. I had too much trust in thinking that people were always good. You know, don't get me wrong, I still consider myself blessed by my mom and dad's prayers, blessed by my parents' sacrifice, blessed by God's covering, because I look at this and I'm like, things could have turned out completely different had this, you know, certain things happen. But I look at my situation now and I'm like, I am blessed. But these are the things that I've learned from that make me who I am today. So perhaps the only thing I would say is just approach things with a little bit more caution. But I wouldn't change a thing. I've had a lovely childhood in you know, in Haiti. And though they depict Haiti as a very poor country, blah, blah, etc. But we took pleasure in the most simple things. Going to, you know, play with the kids in the neighborhood, whether they were fortunate or not, you know, or going to the beach today, even if the next 6 months we're not going to the beach. Or let's say, you know, we go to church this Sunday and then finally we get to eat some chocolate. After, you know, the whole year, mom and dad said, no, you can't have chocolate, you know. So it's just, I'm looking back, I'm like, I'm okay. I feel grateful for the education I received. I feel grateful for the parents that I had. I feel grateful from the country I came from. I am grateful beyond measure.
Beautiful.
To just enjoy the little things of life, because today, I'm getting teary-eyed, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've been fighting mine. You're good. Yeah, you just never know. You never know what's coming tomorrow. I think that's a beautiful expression, because those little things, technically, when you add them up, imagine a bottle of water. Collectively, it's just a bottle. But if you had to take and count the drops one by one, and that's life, when you can hone in on that little thing and have such tremendous gratitude for what someone else doesn't even think about twice.
Yeah.
Because someone had to create it. Someone had to provide it. And so what that shows is your level of gratitude, tremendous. And the more you have to be thankful for, the more you can do. You know, whenever a woman, anyone starts running on E, take a breath, sit down, pick up a pen, and just start going to town, writing everything you're grateful for. Yeah. And don't stop until you run out. And that exercise alone gives you motivation to realize it could be so much worse.
Oh my God.
But the fact that you woke up that morning, that you have people who care about you, that you have the ability to communicate and touch a heart. I mean, again, these things, you can't put them on a scale and measure them. So,
No.
I told you it was going to be phenomenal to have you here today. And look at you, girl.
You cry. Oh my gosh.
Hey, we're all in this together. You're feeling what we know many in the audience can relate to, because I feel like these days we're so busy that you don't even take a minute to feel, and that is in and of itself is such a gift. So
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, as Black women, we go through things.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Everyone has a story.
Absolutely.
But when you reach that point where you are at peace and hold on to that peace.
Yep.
As long as you know, just hold on to it.
Oh yeah.
What you went through not only can be an inspiration to someone else, but at the same time, it creates that good human being that you are. So, like today I could have said, okay, you know how, and especially in our culture, right? In the African culture, they always tell you, okay, you always gotta have the husband, the kids, and stuff like that, right? And if you don't, then, even back home, I grew up listening to that. I said, oh, you can't just go through life without having a husband and kids. But at the same time, I look at certain friends of mine who ended up with a husband that beat them.
Oh yeah.
There was one of them, a woman I met one time. She created a foundation for battered women. Why? Because the husband she had almost killed her. I personally been raped at one time in my life, and you look back at all of this, is like, not having certain things in your life doesn't make you less of what you are.
There you go.
That everything that happened, whether good or bad, were supposed to happen to make you who you are today. And if you don't have certain things, it wasn't written for you to have certain things. But at the same time, you accept it and you create your legacy with what you have. They always say, start what you are, where you are, and continue with the things that you have accumulated.
Yeah.
Success is not defined by how much money you have. And unfortunately, this is the one thing that I realize that the United States has. They always want to define success with money. No. Success can be, I overcame a narcissistic relationship. Success can be, I overcame poverty. Success can be that, you know what? I have peace of mind because mentally I wasn't okay. Define what your success means. Don't look at other people to define your success.
Yeah, that's powerful.
You
Very
know,
powerful.
I had to learn this. Unfortunately, I know with age comes wisdom, but when you experience certain things, you have to look back and say, you know what? I have a roof over my head. I have food on the table every day. I'm healthy. Of a freaking pandemic, And do you not define this as success? You understand?
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't know. Us as human beings, if we were grateful more often for the little things that we had, we would realize how blessed and highly favored we are.
Agreed. Yeah, that's very, very powerful. And, when you mention these life lessons and how with age comes wisdom, the thing about it, unfortunately, is there's some people that stand at our age group who haven't embraced that wisdom. And it's not because it's elusive or, wisdom is hiding around the corner. It's they're not ready.
Yeah.
And so when you open yourself to the possibilities of assessing what happened to me yesterday does not have to be my burden now. And when you let those burdens go and you free up the energy to propel yourself into turning into what's coming, it's such a beautiful thing. And, it's unfortunate because women do bear the brunt of a lot of crimes, a lot of hate, a lot of disdain. But sometimes we are the source of it. And it's because there's this vicious cycle that, based on what happened to us when we were children, or, even in our young adulthood, we can't let go. We can't afford to hold on to the things that break us. You can't afford to live and drown in pain.
Yep.
And so whatever you've got to do to find an outlet, to get help, don't buy into the stigma that it's a bad thing to try to get someone else to pull you out of that trench, because it really is about community. When you connect with someone, it's a blessing. It's able to open up tremendous opportunities. Things that you probably at one point thought were impossible become not just possible, but easy, because now you're not doing it by yourself. So that collective strength in numbers is wonderful. And so anyone that has the ability to be fragile, to be vulnerable, and to step out of that shell and say, I know I'm going to be okay, we definitely applaud you. It's not an easy thing, but it's as easy as, once you cross over the line and you have that behind you, one step at a time, just one step at a time.
I feel like a therapy session. Okay, you got me all here crying. Look. Oh, why?
But here's the key. Now you're laughing. And when you can take that catharsis and cleanse and be ready for what's coming next, that's what New You Wow is about, just the possibilities. But one last question before we let you go. Given your passion for art, what do you think more people embracing the arts, what effect could that have on helping us to recover from the pandemic?
Art is always an outlet of expression, right?
Agreed.
And unfortunately, not all of us are born being artists. So whatever your outlet of expression is, even if it's breaking things, that's a form of art as well. The pandemic has affected a lot of artists. This is what I realized, because the amount of submission that I used to get before the pandemic has decreased a little bit, but they're still, trying to create. But I realized if art did not exist, it would have been such a bleak world. Oh my gosh. And I thank God for artists, because they're able to do, I think art, that's their superhuman ability, to be able to create this emotion in other human beings that appreciate what they do. Because let's say even a painter, paints a portrait of someone. I can't do that, but I appreciate it so much that I realize, okay, that's your superpower. Because of that, you kind of like frame this little moment of time of, I don't have to think about the bills I have to pay. I don't have to think about where I don't have to stay. But just that little moment of time where you're in tune, because I think it's just a spiritual experience when it comes to art, right? You're in tune with that art and just embrace it and take it in, right? And let's say, for example, you see Art Basel. Appreciate Art Basel so much.
Yeah, huge event.
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about, what happens around Art Basel. The Art Basel itself. When someone takes their time and creates something out of something that you would never imagine. It just amazes me. I've seen an artist one time create home objects completely out of graphite.
Wow.
And he created a dustpan and then put it on a sponge. But when you come closer and you read that note, that person took a graphite and created that thing that looks like a dustpan that you could have bought at Walmart, but this thing was created by this artist. You're like, oh my gosh.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
Or, or when you have an artist who decides that his art is going to be your emotion, he's going to create an emotion in you that you never knew existed. That artist that took the banana and put it on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that? Art. The art itself was the emotion, the outrage.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, you know what the response was? If we can all come together to be outraged about a banana on the wall, imagine how we can all come together to actually, fix certain things that humanity is going through. Hunger, poverty, all of that. But you all came together for a banana on the wall, right? Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a banana on the wall. And somebody ate the banana on the wall. What if this was helping children? What if it was, war, killing war? What if this was climate change? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That was the art. That's why it sold for $120,000.
There you go.
Art.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's those emotions. So you can't take that for granted. I have to say I'm very grateful. My contribution to artists out there was creating a platform for them to be able to express themselves. None of the artists that are in my magazine paid to be in there. And I just give them, if that's your expression of art, go ahead. Whether it's singing, dancing, painting, sculpting, whatever it is, photographs, facts, whatever it is, the platform is yours.
No, that's fantastic. And kudos for creating that, for continuing to provide it, because when you empower someone with a voice, you don't know what beautiful things can come of that. Yeah. And I think too, it spins off into each of us in our own way are artists. We have an easel of life. And at the end of it, you want to be able to say, this is what I created.
Yes.
The challenge is most visionary artists are able to see the end before it gets there. But when you're standing by and you're watching them, all you see is just color and a paintbrush, and you don't know what's coming of it. But once it's done, you're blown away that was even possible to be placed on a canvas. That's life. Don't waste a day. Don't waste a moment. Completely immerse yourself in the very things you described, connecting, emotion, and goals. Just keep working. And then, when you can look back at it, and it really takes perspective. Sometimes you're up in it and you just have to step back and look at what you've done. That's accomplishment. That is success. And the thing to remember is, the story is still being written. Yep. What you've done right now, you can't even use as a gauge for what the big picture is going to look like. So we are so excited to have had you join us today. If we have anyone in the listening audience that wants to pursue getting in touch with you, what is the best way for them to go about doing that? Social media, email?
The simplest way is go to my website, CorhinnBrunot.com.
Excellent.
As it has everything, like email, social media, all that good stuff. And I'm pretty Googleable, so.
I can attest to that. But we thank you so much for coming along today. We thank you to the listening audience. Definitely reach out to Corhinn if you have any projects that are up and coming that you want to have in a very viable, fantastic platform. And to all that are listening today that wonder, what does the future hold for me? Go out and make it happen. Realize that there is no limit, and it all starts with today. We look forward to seeing you next time. In the meanwhile, stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to share this video and like, comment, and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at NewYouWow. Until next time, stand tall in your power, and remember, your belief in yourself is your superpower.